Cryptillions and crypto crackheads, today is April 26th, 2021, and this is your altcoin video. So I've been snubbing BPRO for a while because really most of the action in the market is Ethereum and Bitcoin. Altcoins, are kind of moving sideways and stuff, but here we go. Let's do an altcoin video starting in depth with BPRO. So more of the action can be seen on the 4-hour. So it looks like BPRO has a low, a lower low, and then not quite a higher low. So these two strikes here with this and this is bullish divergence. And it's made, so it's only 2 strikes though. Would have been nice if it had come down past, oh, I guess it did get past a penny, just under a penny. So I was kind of anticipating it, but I didn't realize it happened. So it's formed a higher low, it's formed bullish divergence on the 4-hour. The likelihood of that being, the low is kind of high. I would be more confident in saying that's the low and it will not hit this trend line if it had a true third strike. So what could still happen though is you end up seeing that 1, 2, third strike down here. That's absolutely possible on this third drive down. So you better watch out for that before. So if that does happen though, then BPRO probably would scream up. So that's one scenario I'd be looking out for BPRO. Second most likely, or tied with most likely, I guess, for your 3 probables, is that was about as low as it'll get, and it could follow the path that I've drawn out here. So bullish, red, bullish, bullish, red, kind of find some resistance at a few key points, and perhaps hit this trend line at 3.6 cents around the late first week of May or into the second week of May, somewhere around there. And so those are the immediate things I'd be looking out for. Will it hit this trend line or not on a third drive down, or will only get 2 drives, and that 2.5 drive was all it needed, and now it'll start heating up and going up. So since this has gone so low and corrected so hard for so long, as I kind of anticipated after it hit that trend line, even though I did think it was going to hold, I thought it was going to hold 1.6 cents. But this was a what if, right? But anyway, since it's gone down so hard, I think this could move up, even if Ethereum and Bitcoin move down. I think this is ready to move up independent of the market, even if the market did get bearish. So I would anticipate that. I strongly do not anticipate it, a what if playing out, that it finds some trend line like this at those highs down at 0.008. That would be the next what if. That would be its next stop, is 0.008, finding that trend line. So there are a lot of options here, but the 2 most likely, in my opinion, are that it doesn't really go back down below a penny, or if it does, it hits a penny, makes that third lower low just barely, and then charges up. Now, midterm, like, 1 and 2 weeks out for BPRO, here's what to look out for. How it will behave once it gets confidently above, 1.6, 1.7 cents, or 2 cents, is that I anticipate that it will react pretty heavily with this trend line here. So depending on which day it screams up, that would dictate, if that's true, if the assumption is true that it will get rejected from this dark green trend line, how high it will go will depend on what date it goes up to touch it, right? So if it waited to go up to touch that line until May 5th, that would put it at 3.8 cents if it does get rejected there. If it goes sideways for a little longer, sideways but confident, finds support here, comes up here, gets rejected at this horizontal, comes up to the next horizontal, and it just stair steps its way through the horizontals, kind of like this, that might actually be a little bit better, because once it hits that trend line, if it does, go out to late May, it will have room to go up a lot higher. It'll have room to go up a lot higher, and if it breaks out and hits that around late May, that would be looking at 10 cents. So the later the better, if the premise of this dark green trend line acts as resistance is true. It's possible that This blue line is resistance. So if it breaks out earlier, it could go straight up to 6 cents, you know, by the second week of May. So the thing to look out for on BPRO is which line or lines will it respect as resistance moving forward in May? Will it fully respect these horizontals that we have here? And these horizontals are at 2.4 cents, at 3 cents, at 3.3 cents, and it's roughly all-time high of 4.3 cents. So those are the key levels to look out for. Will it respect those as resistance and ignore the diagonals, thus stay under them? Or, so that's how these lines came into play, right? So here's the 2.4 cents line, why it makes sense. So it gets these highs here and it gets these low here. So it ties in these supports with these resistances. It's a pretty solid line. And honestly, that should be a little thicker. So I should thicken up this line a little bit because it's actually stronger than what that, yeah. And then honestly, I might actually erase, yeah, those two lines kind of count. So I will keep them as lines, not a box. And then the next line of resistance up is this one at 3 cents. The next one up is at 3.3 cents. And the next one kind of connects the high at 4.3 cents. So midterm then on the next weeks, will it respect the diagonal line or is it going to respect the horizontals? It could at the beginning look like it's respecting both. If it races up and kind of hits like there where it crosses, then you won't know. And then it can do it again right where it crosses. Like that could happen twice, and therefore it's respecting both. And like those lines crossing is what is sucking up price. And then it respects this line like May and hits 8, 9, 10 cents, something like that. So those are the plays I anticipate to happen. I do not anticipate BPRO ever in its life ever again touching this line or this line. I think those are completely out of play. And soon this line will be completely out of play because, as I've said in multiple videos, if it were to keep this line the whole time, BPRO would be in the hundreds of dollars by the end of the year. And anybody who passed 4th grade math knows that that's not possible within the realm of, you know, the capital it take to make that happen. You know, we're targeting like maybe $1 at a fairly bullish, like that's a pretty high expectation of BPRO at the end of the year to hit $1. Given the coin circ being so high. So this is the trajectory I'd have to take on average right here in order to hit about, in order to hit like 30 cents, it would have to on average be around this line, up, below it and above it, below it and above it. You'd have to average that. In order for it to hit 50 cents, BPRO would need to, I would probably connect it with this high here, if anything. So, because this is probably what's going to play out. Something connecting these lines, which that does actually point at 30 cents. So 30 cents might be the deal here. That would make perfect sense for BPRO to top out at 30 cents because it connects these highs. But it's, you know, we really don't know. It's just a guess. That's just one possible guess. It's a good guess. But also, BPRO could hit 50 cents, and this is what it would look like. This is the trajectory it would have to take to hit 50 cents, so let's go ahead and do that. And these could end up being our new origin lines, essentially. Let's make these like dark purple or something and thin, because these might not count for anything. So let's do this. So essentially, I'm connected it roughly with that previous all-time high of 0.0027. All right, and to hit $1, I anticipate whatever path it takes, it will go through this previous all-time high. So and that actually could make sense. So one of these 3 lines. So let's see how that would interplay with current price. So if these lines end up being roughly the right angle of the new origin lines, the way BPRO could play is it comes up to these horizontals, it passes those 3 purple lines, hits this, then falls back into these, and, you know, throughout a series of highs and stuff, and then it starts forming which one it's going to follow. And honestly, since BPRO got so hot so fast, if it does recover halfway nicely here, it could easily hit $1 at the end of the year. It could just ride somewhere like this the entire time, and then just boom at the end hit $1. Like, honestly, that could happen. That's not very improbable. I mean, I think that's in double digits percentage chances for it to hit $1 at the end of the year. Is it 30% chance? Probably not. But I don't think it's a horrible chance for it to hit $1. So it is possible it could 100x from here. Although possible does not mean probable. So really, there's a lot to be said for BPRO in the next 2 months. The next 2 months of BPRO will really set the pace for the rest of the year. And but now you have both short-term targets, mid-term targets, and long-term targets to work with for BPRO. All right, and I think honestly the play might stay on the dollar pairing. However, why is my trading view not working? Okay, my trading view obviously doesn't want to work. There we go. So BPRO versus the dollar, we could see that we could end up finding that BPRO's origin lines happen here for some reason. But honestly, this graph looks almost identical with this previous all-time high here. So I think the play will be on the dollar pairing. All right. Let's go to VIACOIN. VIACOIN versus BTC. Let's go to the weekly. It's probably correcting down as I anticipated it would, down to its weekly 10 versus BTC. It's not there yet, but it's on the way. Hasn't moved very much, has it? But I'm anticipating it coming down to on the Bitcoin pairing, correcting somewhere into here. And what that means for price really depends on what Bitcoin and Ethereum are doing, right? So what's the dollar pairing doing? Moving with Bitcoin, of course. Let's try to check this out, clean up the chart a little bit. It looks like it's getting rejected from these previous points here. The weekly Stokes are headed down. The weekly RSI looks like it's getting ready to get rejected, then it'll head down. So really on VIACOIN versus the dollar, this would be the thing to watch. Does the weekly RSI get stuck below this point? And it could pierce through and then the next tick down, but really next week you'll probably be able to tell what's going on. So this is the thing to watch with VIACOIN. US dollar pairing, the weekly RSI in relation to the EMA of the RSI. And again, my price targets for this, I do think it will come down somewhere close to this origin line here, which could put it at the lowest around 75. It could only go down to 90, like wick past its 21, which it almost always does. Previous price history, although right now it's more bullish than it was last run, so it's possible that it only goes as low as between the 10 and the 21 down to $1.09 or something. That could be a play. Or it's possible that it just frickin' moves sideways and lets them catch up, right? So it could be this price here, something like that. And then what the EMA does is so the 10 could essentially come up like this, and the 21 could come up, right below it, and they could essentially squeeze it out of this origin line, so that VIACOIN, really gains some steam. And I kind of think that VIACOIN will, it could screen past this one, go up to $11 and come back and land on this. Or it could screen past this and get rejected from this line and then coming down quite a bit, like for a 50-70% correction, something like that. That would be a... So VIACOIN will take off, most likely. Yeah, 50%. That actually might be a pretty good guess. So it could fly up to $15, $16, $17 once it breaks this line. If it does move sideways and just allows the moving averages on the weekly to, to squeeze it out. So there are 3 possible scenarios for VIACOIN in recap. That I see most likely is it only corrects down between the weekly 10 and the 21 for like hitting around $1.14 to $1.10. It could wick below the weekly 21 somewhere around the 90-cent land, and then it could stay up here and allow its weekly moving averages, exponential moving averages, to catch up and just get squeezed out. It could do the squeeze play, which does happen a lot. It doesn't happen usually after or without a lot of volatility first. So, you know, here it had a lot of volatility before it did the squeeze play. See that? So these moving, so this moving average and that moving average squeezed it out from that origin line. See the squeeze play? However, first it had, this is a 7% correction right there, 77%. So like I said, the squeeze play typically comes after a lot of volatility, and we've had a spike up, but we kind of need a spike down to replicate that. If it ends up happening, but it doesn't have to happen the same. But anyway, that's what those are the three main things that I'm looking out for on VIACOIN. ADB just had a breakout, a failed breakout, came down and retraced. That might be about as low as it goes. On the Bitcoin pairing, it could come all the way down to the 21, but it's on the lower end of what it's going to do here. And plus the daily RSI and the daily Stokes already reset, so this might gain some steam up here. ADB might. AXPR looks pretty healthy. AXPR versus Bitcoin. Okay, so it's essentially getting rejected by its weekly 89, which is coming in at 72 with 6 zeros in front on the Bitcoin pairing, and that also aligns with this horizontal at the same exact point. So it's essentially got double resistance here, and it'll, you know, essentially probably have to do a squeeze play. It's going to need its weekly 10 to come up and squeeze price out like so, and price, what it might do is something like this. Squeeze play. I anticipate something like that happening. So that's what to look out for with Expire. And there are gonna be a lot of coins that are doing this. I mean, Bolt versus BTC is probably the same exact thing. Okay. No, Bolt is doing the more common play of getting rejected by its weekly 55. So this is the thing to look out for. Bolt versus Bitcoin has a double resistance from, you know, candle bodies of the weekly coming in right at versus Bitcoin at 33.48 with 6 zeros in front, and that's also where the weekly 55 is. So once it breaks out from that, it's going to fly, and that will coincide with Bolt's breaking out on the dollar pairing and blue sky breakouts. It should be a pretty aggressive breakout, and it could take it versus Bitcoin all the way to 10,000 with 5 zeros in front. So this could 5x versus Bitcoin. I mean, it could really fly. It really could. That's versus Bitcoin. Yeah, like Bolt has the chance to really fly. All right. Capacity. It's the same exact thing as AXPR. It's getting rejected by its weekly 89, so this probably will need to do the squeeze play. What I don't like about this is it is below its weekly 10. So it might need its 21 to kind of squeeze it up like that. And then once price gets confident enough, it'll get above its 10. Something like that. And the 10 might end up squeezing it above the 89, which is purple. Something like that might happen. And so as that's happening, price will do something like a seriously thing. I'm clearly not using that one anymore, okay? Price could just, you know, kind of go up and down like this. Just up and down, up and down, up and down until it squeezes out. So that's my anticipation with that. So key levels for that to look out for on capacity is on the Bitcoin pairing. Once it breaks out of 4,400 with 6 zeros in front, it probably will be game on. But until then, it's probably going to bounce around. I mean, it could be freaking all of May and early June. Honestly, it looks like it might need a couple months, unfortunately. COV, honestly, this is looking really weak. It's not good. It's below its 10 and its 21. I don't know. I mean, it could make new lows. That's not good at all. I didn't expect the weakness in this. Yeah, I mean, honestly, if this week closes below its 10, I might sell that at a loss. I don't like it when that happens. Stuck below the weekly 10, that's bad. Right, reset price doesn't work. So we're staring at a lot of horizontal yellow lines. Isn't that fun? All right, so I mean, it's the same play, right? It's going to be a squeeze play, so I don't really have to repeat myself. CPC, it's going to get squeezed, something like that, and it'll break out. And it could go straight up to 7,500 with 6 zeros in front of it versus Bitcoin. Like, it'll probably fly pretty high. And what percentage would that be if it breaks out right there? Yeah, it's 100% versus Bitcoin. Actually go a little higher. So it could actually go up to 10,000 with 5 zeros in front, actually. And use something in the middle as support, like this wick with that candle. Yeah, probably something like this wick with that candle body. Might use that as support. So that support would come in at 8,700 with 6 zeros in front. But, you know, price, if it gets squeezed out, might fly past it up to 10,000 with 5 zeros in front, come back down to 8,000 with 6 zeros in front, something like that. That would be the play. So it's also a squeeze play with the same exact moving averages on the weekly, the 55 and the 10. All right, Crypterium. Again, it's closing below its 10. I have not entered this, and I will not enter it until it's probably above its 21, because once it gets above its 21, it probably will start flying. But right now, it's below its 10. I wouldn't touch it. Would I sell it at a loss if I had bought it, you know, thinking it was going to break out here? I mean, you're running the chance of it discovering new prices lower. It's totally possible. And this is versus Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin goes up, its dollar pairing might actually be going up a little bit, but still, that's not good. That's a sign of weakness. And what is strong typically stays strong, and what is weak often stays weak. So I don't like the inertia of that one, or what was it? Co-vesting. Very weak. And inertia is a real thing. Does it play out 100%? No, it doesn't. All right, so this is another squeeze play on credits. It's the same exact thing, folks. Like, this is the most common formation in small alts right now since Bitcoin got so hot. So it's going to do a squeeze play. So it's and it's also got a horizontal at its weekly 55 at 5 zeros 281 versus Bitcoin. And its low end, which it probably will stay above, has double support with the horizontal and its 21 moving average at 5 zeros 140. So it has so this could go sideways for quite a bit with Bitcoin and Ethereum if they do, but it would, you know, do a squeeze play like this as the 55 comes down and as the 10 and 21 come up like this. And that would put it June, mid to late June before it pops out, if it follows a true squeeze play, which aligns with the possibility that Bitcoin and Ethereum go sideways until July. So there's not much going on with small alts, folks. They're all trapped. Like, it's just going to be no man's land, honestly. So this is why I've been making videos on, you know, light leverage. And even though it's hard to make money like that too, you know, if it were easy to make money using leverage, everybody would do it, right? Most people are actually gamblers. So if you have statistical probable, you know, entries, you're actually taking money from gamblers typically. And sometimes a few traders who just bet the wrong way, but over time they're profitable. But for every winner, you know, for every winner, there is a loser and an exchange that wins, because the exchange is always winning. So it's a three-party system for a negative sum game. So the loser loses a little more and the winner wins a little less, as the exchange has to cut into both of those and profit from both a win and a loss. Yeah, I mean, car vertical is just, it's the same squeeze play, but this one could break out a little sooner since it is above its 10. The 10 can squeeze it out pretty soon. So this could break out late May or earlier. So this one looks a lot healthier. Car vertical looks way healthier. Okay, DAPPT is one of the strongest coins we're following. Yeah, I mean, this looks really good. It's above its weekly 10. It only closed one time below its weekly 10. It didn't even come back down to retest its prior all-time high. Like, it's staying supporting above it on these wicks of it. This is impressive. So again, what stays strong, what is strong typically stays strong, and what is weak often stays weak. So if you're into something like co-vesting, or CRPT, like Crypterium and stuff, I mean, it is possible that a better play would be to sell at a loss. This is not financial advice. I'm saying it's possible with the theory that what is strong stays strong, what is weak stays weak longer, right? To sell at a loss to get into something that is strong. Because the likelihood of DAPPT taking off way before those coins is very high, like way over 50% chance. So, yeah. All right. Digitex futures. I know a couple of my patrons are really into this one. I personally won't even look at it until it's closing strongly above its weekly 10. So I wouldn't check that coin out until that's happened. But it is a small cap, and a couple people seem to like it. So EFX, same thing. I wouldn't touch it, even though it looks like it's getting some confidence. It's got a couple things going for it though. It's getting ready to get a weekly cross. It just found, very clear support at horizontal. It's gaining steam. But still, I mean, it's possible it gets rejected from here and comes down to this line here, the what's next line. It's very possible. So this is why, I would prefer to miss out on this price action in order to see it closing above both the 21 and the 10. So how much price action would I be missing out on? It can't be much. 28%, right? So that's the risk. The reward is having 0% chance of this crap happening down to this horizontal, which is a 45% loss. So 0% chance for 45% loss at the possibility of losing out on 28% increase. So it's below its 10. That's the risk reward. And that's why, mathematically, my thinking behind my thought process behind the weekly 10 is freaking sound. You just saw why. 48% loss, 0% possibility, because you're not buying until it's strong. And then missing out on 28% of price action is a possibility, because it could just go lower, right? So yeah, I don't like the risk. That's another pretty weak one, although it does have a little bit more going for it. It does look like a bottom, and it does look like it has a bullish cross coming. So it'd be risky to get into it, but you could end up like that could fly. I mean, it technically could, because it doesn't have, it's not old enough where it has moving averages like the weekly 55 going to block it. So its youth is probably what hurt it so bad here, but also its youth, once it takes off, it could really take off. So maybe there is more, reward to getting in earlier before it closes, but that's not my party. I don't do that. ENQ, same thing as DAPPT. Whatever I said for DAPPT, apply it to ENQ. Same thing. Looks very strong. And also closed above, built support above its previous all-time high. FKX coin. It's above its 10. That's a nasty correction it had because it took off too much. That's patrons. That's why you don't market buy so hard. Yeah, it looks like it's forming a good base. What is it going to do from now? I don't know. I anticipate it probably goes sideways for a bit. It could play a huge range, though. I mean, this might be one to eye for a range. Just sell around there or slightly higher. And from the weekly 10, that would, oh yeah, that's a month. I don't know. FKX might be one to play for a range. That's going to be a monster ass. That is actually the biggest range I've seen. Usually the ranges come in between like 30 to 90%. That's like 126%. That's 2.2 times your money if you can catch that. And you can catch it multiple times. I don't know. That might be a good one to play for ranges. And those points are, I think 6 euros, 5,700 to, and this is FKX coin on Bitcoin, to 5 zeros, 14,900. 14,900. Idea, still getting hurt by the fact that it's a young coin and it doesn't have any darn weekly moving averages to sustain it. So all it can do is play off these horizontals. Man, it went all the way down to 30 cents. But it does look like it is it looks like it's proving this as support. So this could take off fairly soon. Especially if this week closes green, the next week will probably be green, come up all the way up to 46 cents to 50 cents. So, well, you'll know by the end of next week whether this is going to be strong or not. Which next week, it could close between 50 and 46 cents. MAP, same exact thing as DAPPT. That's versus the dollar, though. Let me see the... Yeah, it's just like DAPPT versus the Bitcoin pairing too. So it's doing the common play, got rejected from the weekly 55, coming down, retracing. So this is just like Bolt. So Bolt and MAP are, MAP and DAPPT are kind of identical in shape on both the Bitcoin pairing and the dollar pairing. Bolt is identical to them on the Bitcoin pairing, but the only difference that Bolt has is it has not yet broken out of its all-time high, which when it does, it could make it blast a little harder than these, maybe. Potentially. So yeah, it's in the same posturing on the Bitcoin pairing. And then once it actually breaks out of there, it'll be blue sky breakout, which could be pretty strong on MAP. MHC looks like it's going to stay closing above its weekly 55 on the Bitcoin pairing. That's kind of impressive. If it breaks down past that, it will hit its 10 at ₿ And it has, oh yeah, actually it probably will, if I had to guess, because look at these horizontals here. Yeah, so if it breaks down, it's almost definitely going to hit that horizontal here with these candles at 52.50 with 6 zeros in front, and that's where the weekly 10's coming in. So if you're looking to pick up some MHC, that would be a pretty obvious area to do it. Which would align with the price on the US dollar pairing going down to the weekly 21. Morpheus Labs, I mean, it's kind of a little too young to do any technical analysis, but it created very clear support where this wick is, where these two wicks are, right? So it doesn't look like it wants to go anywhere south of 8.6 cents. So if you see Morpheus Labs go below 8.6 cents, you need to get worried because, well, no, the what's next below that would be, it would almost definitely hit 6.2 cents. Right now, it looks like it wants to come back up and give the upper range a try. Like it could go straight up to 17 cents. I anticipate that happening, actually. Morpheus Labs looks like it's correcting pretty well. MTV, okay, it got down to, yep, it got down below my target. I thought it was going to kind of correct down to 7.5 cents. This one might be a good one to play the range, although it's in the middle of the range. It's too late to enter, but I suspect this one's going to range, you know, something like, maybe something like Tone just did, up and down, and Tone played this actually 4 tops. So, I mean, if you didn't catch this one, you could catch the next bottom and potentially sell it 2 more times. This one will probably go sideways for a bit. And it could break down lower, down to 4.8 cents, so watch out for that too. OLT, another squeeze play. This one looks stronger than co-vesting, and because it's above its 10, and it actually stayed above its 10. So this is a very, very, very good sign for OLT. Even though it looked really, really weak, it proved that it's going to close above its 10, and that's going to convert a lot of sideliners and sellers into buyers. So because it proved it so distinctly, if this week also closes above its 10, it's next week. I mean, it's probably going to go right up to that upper, the wicks of the other week, up to 6.60, 50, 65. The next week will probably be a big green week. Opacity, it used this prior wick, so the first week of its price ever as support. Fairly common play for new coins. I don't anticipate it going any lower. If it does, it will try either the next wick down at 5/0/2600, somewhere along those lines, and if it breaks below that, it'll go down to the candle bodies at around, what is it, 0.502. But although this does look like it's going to be stronger, and it already corrected what it needs to correct, like, yeah, 60-70%, so it's probably at the bottom of the range. But it could get stuck under its weekly 10 for a few weeks, so it could just bounce around like a red week, green week, red week, green week, closes above, and then next week screams up. So it could be May. Like, it might play something like that. But the week that it does close a weekly candle above the weekly 10, the week after that will probably be a pretty big green week. So you might want to watch out for that. play is looking stronger than I imagined. It looks like it wants to break up past its weekly 89 EMA. Because its 10 is getting ready to squeeze it out. Yeah, like this squeeze play is going to be a faster one for play. Let's zoom in here and look at that. Yeah, I don't think it needs much more time. So this 89, the 10. Yeah, mid-May at probably the latest. I don't see that waiting any longer. And it could fly right up to where it went up to. 200% gain in a week easily. Once it does that, once it closes a candle above the 89, it'll probably fly up to 0.50s 11,800, something like that. So Ruby, very wow. That's looking strong like Ethereum is. I don't know, up. This doesn't look like it's going to break down. It has everything going for it. Even the daily. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to get rejected. If it does, though, get rejected, it'll probably end up playing a range between this. So you'd have a nice range to work with. And those lines for that would be I think 60 is 220. And at the top would be 0.60 is 320. So between 220 and 320, which sounds like an okay range to play. Yeah, 50%, that's average. Yeah, so you could double your money if you play it a couple times. But it looks like it wants to break out of that. And the next resistance up is at 0.60 is 400. And the next one after that is 0.60 is 500. So this one has a lot of even numbers behind it too. Interesting. Yeah, Ruby's looking strong as hell. No one's really asking me about Cero. Shaw. So it was old and strong like MAP, NDA, PPT, but then it ended up breaking down to its former all-time high of 0.0065. Pretty common. It bounced pretty hard off there. I suspect it'll range. It might bounce off that a couple more times, but it probably won't go below 0.0065. And then whenever it starts closing candles above its weekly 10 is when it'll take off. So that's the thing to play. When does it close a weekly candle above its weekly 10? When it does that, the next week will probably be a nice big green week up. SYLO and SYLO look identical, sort of, but SYLO actually has a lot more going for it because it's stayed way above its weekly 10 a lot longer. SYLO looks like it might break before everything, break up. That's even stronger than Ruby, actually, on the weekly scale. SYLO looks like it's ready to go, or I mean, SYLO looks like it's ready to fly. If it doesn't fly, it'll get rejected from this line here at 1.15 cents. It'll come back down probably here again, and then try it again. But it looks like it's going to fly. Which, if it does come up here and get rejected, it will hit its 10, and then it'll probably fly up. So it'll either get it on this next try, or the try after that, which could be as late as May 24th or something like that on the weekly scale. Toko also looking strong, so it didn't even need to do a squeeze play. So you can see the 10's getting ready to cross above the 55. That's strong. And this one could break up really fast too. This one looks like it wants to go up soon. And just like SYLO, though, it could do this. It could just play its range a couple times while it lets its 21, and then it gets squeezed out of this formation, and that could take till late May. Something like that could happen. However, I would guess that it gets rejected, comes here, closes above, then takes off. And it could fly up right up to 16 cents. Wow. This one could really pop. That's Toko. Wow. Yeah, because if it does close around there, I don't see it getting rejected by 8 cents and 7 cents. I think it's going to ignore it. Yeah, it could go straight up to 16 to 17 cents. It's looking pretty strong. Tone still in its range. I've already discussed the range multiple times. We're good on that. Trias, it's going to wait till it's weekly 10. So, you know, there are no levels to necessarily look at on Trias except for its, you know, previous high of 5.95 cents, something like that. So it'll probably, you know, if it does go up to 5.95 cents, it'll probably get rejected, come back down, and touch its weekly 10 at that time, and that could happen mid-May. Something like that. I don't think it'll pass this all-time high on the next pass. I think it'll take the third pass, which in between that point, once it gets rejected, the next time it would come down, hit its 10, then launch off. Or it could take a while. It could need a squeeze play where the weekly 10, this, is coming up, and price bounces around it. It could take till freaking late June. It could need to fill this out, folks. So, yeah, Trias might take a while. It could need to do this. Like, fill out a triangle here to allow its weekly 10 catch up, to squeeze it out over this. So watch out for that. But there's more money in that, right? If you expect it to range, play the range. You make way more money than if a coin goes straight up. So... holy cow, looky there. Oh, wow. Veracity came down below the 26-cent mark. Oh, holy cow, look at that. Told y'all. It's not my first rodeo. Yep, and I think in my original video when I said, hey, it's got to correct, and I said it'll be lucky if it stops at 26 cents, or, you know, 26 cents might be a stopping point, but I mentioned another point. Maybe I mentioned 20 cents. I said somewhere between those points. Well, it almost went halfway between. So go back to that video if you want me. Like one day I'll actually pull up a clip and play it for y'all. But it did exactly as I predicted. I mean, it really did. Did I predict the time? No. You're not supposed to predict times. If you try to like put timing in your TA, you're a dork. Unless there's something super clear, like a weekly 10 is approaching an origin line, something like that. Okay, that's a little timing, but you can't time most stuff. But I just knew it was going to happen. And plus it, you know, okay, what do you think the percentage correction of this was in total? Think it was between 40 and 60%? 57%. Isn't that crazy? All right, West. Yeah, it's using its prior all-time high of support. It looks similar in formation as DA, PPT, and SYLO, but not quite as strong. But it's still holding it as support. So, and what West really has going for it that is interesting is it's getting ready to get a squeeze play out of the biggest EMA of the week. Or no, that's the daily shit. So that probably aligned with the weekly. Yeah. Okay, so it doesn't have a weekly. Good. So the biggest EMA it has as overhead is the daily 200. Once it pops over there, there is no EMA resistance. It's only horizontal resistance. So to play West in terms of taking profit should be pretty easy because you're only dealing with horizontals on the Bitcoin pairing. So profit taking in West versus BTC would be about as easy as it gets. Would you hit all of them perfectly? No. Because it could fly it past and then come back down and use the area of as support that you sold, right? But still, you could buy back at the same price after, you know, going to flip another coin and bringing it back to West as it comes down. Tomo. Let's go to the weekly. That's weak. I would stay the hell out of that. I mean, this might make new lows. This actually might be the worst chart. Yeah, it's getting the other cross. Like, that's really bad. Look, the chance of it getting rejected and coming down to here is pretty high, and that here is 0.002700. That's weak. That's extremely weak. So those of y'all who scouted that, I mean, yeah, you were following a typical squeeze play, and it just broke down. I mean, that's part of what happens when, you know, things like Bitcoin and Ethereum take a dump. And you can't anticipate it, you know? You win some, you lose some. VeChain looking strong as shit. It just tagged its weekly 10, and it looks like it's going to keep marching. Gee whiz. And VeChain, it's kind of an easy play because the weekly, it looks like it likes to use this as support in strong moves, and it literally just touched it perfectly. Look at that. See that? It's going to march out. It could print a small green candle. Next week is a small red candle, touch its 10, and then fly. But I think it's going to continue the trend. Just pinging right off its weekly. Right here, right here, right here. Just playing off its weekly 10. This is really strong. VeChain looks really good, folks. As much as I earlier dissed it. Oddly enough, Dogecoin looks fairly strong too. Even though it's corrected 60% and didn't hit its 10, yikes. It's not good. So this is going to move sideways for several weeks. It's going to form another triangle just like this, like it did between January and April. It's probably going to go sideways for 3 months. Because it'll probably do another squeeze play with its 10 like this. It's 10, go like up like that. And then price, you know, something like that. And then squeeze if it does. And honestly, there's nothing saying it won't. If it's got the hype and a bunch of people, you know, retail investors are like looking it up and wanting to like how to buy Dogecoin, it's trending on Google, which it is. There's nothing stopping it from hitting $1 or slightly higher. If it just prints the same type of bullishness, but only 80% of it, so only let's say a 380% from this point instead of a 480%, it could hit $1.30, folks. Halfway through the year. I don't know. By the end of the year, Dogecoin might hit $5. It could hit $5. Just based on percentages. Because typically things don't have a major correction during a bull market. I mean, they'll go sideways for 3 or 4 months. But during its last 2 raw, it could easily hit $4. Yeah, $4 to $5. Honestly, would be what I'm targeting end of year for Doge. The way it's behaving right now. Even with 3 months or 150 days of going sideways. Because it's got to get that last 2 raw like everything else. All right, last thing I'm going to cover is Pirate Chain. Well, it corrected 66%, but it's still above its 10. So this is kind of like Dogecoin, but even a bigger run. So it's probably going to do something like this and have its weekly 10 go like that. So the bottom of this triangle thing that it'll probably form is going to be the weekly 10. And what price is going to do is it might bounce around between, you know, a descending high, and it could bust up. And when it busts up, it could go to $129. So not being biased towards something that got way too hot, way too fast, a 54,000% run. So ignoring the percentage basis from a structural and posturing basis, I don't know. I think it might actually do something like this. So it actually, I think it has some down. I bet it comes down to $2 it might wait to do that until the 21 gets to here. So I think Pirate Chain will hit $3.35, something like this, and still form a triangle and then bust out. And it still could hit 120. Like it could hit $120. This could be end up a top 10 coin, actually, just if I can ignore the fact that it got way too hot, way too fast. If I can only look at it like this, remove all bias off of structure alone, if it follows the trend, which is not a bad bet, it could easily get over $100. Even if it goes sideways for 200 days right now, which it probably will, or 150 days. I mean, how long did it go sideways here? Yeah, 100 days. So it'll at least go sideways 100 days. Gosh. This bull market might be a little too hot. This bull market's been pretty hot, folks. So this could go sideways to August and still get way over $100 by the end of the year. I don't know. But so that's my non-biased analysis. Analysis with just personal logic. It already got up to 2 billion cap. That's already a big cap. You already know for a fact that putting your money into big caps, it guarantees you lower ROI than even like dud low cap coins by the end of the year. Because dud low cap coins often 20x, you know. And this could get 10x though out of it. It could 15x. But betting on big cap coins, they move slower. And the ROI, so from entering from now. Now, if you were in, yeah, obviously, if you got in this in March, hell yeah, I would stick with it. Maybe take profits along the way, or which is not a bad idea, especially if it gets to the top of this range again, like somewhere around 15 bucks, taking a little profits and buying it back down lower. Probably a good idea to play a triangle of sorts, because it's going to go back up and down, up and down. And it could come straight down to like $3 though. So taking profits now, or close to now, might, you know, a tiny bit, like 2% of your holdings, 3%, so you can, you know, have a chance of buying it way lower. Might not be a bad idea, but I mean, structurally, it does look like by the end of the year, it's going to pass 100. I mean, it's going to pass $100 structurally, but logically, I don't know. That's too hot, too fast. But for the people who said, you know, it could get a lot bigger, I mean, the chart does agree with you, so I will give you that. So I guess I won't trash it too much, because I do maintain that I can see stuff in the charts. But the warning thing is, I can also see that it went 50,000% increase, and that's pretty hot. And it's already 2 billion caps, so, you know, I think I can see in the charts that you could get better ROI elsewhere. If you had bought this in March, why don't you take like half of your profits and go put it into another coin that could do 20,000% increase, right? Which this will not do again this year. So you got two things going for you. And you can definitely bet, like, even if this does 120%, it's going to correct 97% in the bear market, right? So, so if it goes down till January 2023, 95%, shit, that's still around $4. Damn. It's kind of impressive. So maybe anonymous coins will have their run. That's why I've been acquiring smaller cap anonymous coins. I miss Pirate Chain though, because I really think that once governments start trying to crack down on things that have a public ledger, that there will be a bull rush towards specifically anonymous coins, and since it's a small pack anyway, they're all going to fly, and that all of them can do what Pirate Chain just did, but it's not going to happen this cycle. It'll happen once a country decides to adopt Bitcoin or Litecoin or Bitcoin Cash or Dash or whatever, and then other countries to anticipate their people potentially stopping, you know, using their printed monopoly money as a government, if they're to anticipate their people also saying no to them, like Venezuela did, you know, or whoever does it first, they could start cracking down, and that could happen by 2025. So, so anonymous coins, private coins, privacy coins are not an unsafe bet. Like, they actually have been my bet for a while, but I knew that it would one country would have to adopt a blockchain money like Bitcoin, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash to transact before that happened. That would be the play, right? One country adopts it, they say no to the government's money, other governments around the world, to inhibit that from happening in the near future in their country, they would crack down, and then privacy coins would skyrocket. So that would be the tit for tat there. So that's all I got for you. So if you, you know, if you're a new viewer and you liked what you saw, go ahead and subscribe and let me know if you have chosen to be a cryptillion or a crypto crackhead, and we'll see you next time.